Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity in the conversation around trauma and celebrate all the unique ways we love and heal. I'm one of your Season 2 hosts, Dr. Debra. Let's listen, let's learn, let's heal.
It's just all the bodies, all the life stands out to me. Could officers have responded quicker? We get there as fast as we can. And it's just the life that's lost stands out to me. And how could this happen? Why did this happen? What happened? What signs were missed? Especially if the active shooter is a student that goes to the school. Could more have been done?
Here we are, as I promised, with retired Captain Ann Young, and we're going to talk about active shooting training. And I am so excited because Captain Young is like a mentor to me and everything. And she is like one of the first Black, if not the first Black female police captains in the nation. So we have someone who is amazing here as my, I want to say a bad, but I'm not going to say that out loud because I don't want to get, I don't know if I can get censored for saying bad words. So I'm not going to say bad words. So anyways, Captain Young, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Debra, for that lovely introduction. I am currently retired from the Los Angeles Police Department. I worked 35 years with that department and retired at the rank of captain. I'm teaching now at several universities, and I'm still in the learning phase of my life.
We are all in the learning phase of our life. I'm still like a little kid in a candy store, trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, but you always make me want to be more. And so that is one of the things that I love about you. But you have such knowledge. Like, look at our world today, like active shooting, right? And you just made a course on the LLU called active shooting training, right? And which is going to be an amazing course if people take it. But one of the things I wanted to do today was talk about what it's like for a police officer when an active shooting incident happens. Because people don't realize there's a lot of things that police officers go through and a lot of things they can and cannot do in those situations. And this show is about getting to know people and know what they're going through so that people can see things from different, diverse angles and also talk about things that are interesting. So first off, tell us what police officers go through to be someone who responds to an active shooting incident.
Well, I tell you, Dr. Debra, you just never know when you're going to get that radio call and it's on you and your partner to respond. It's not something we wake up every morning and say, gosh, darn, I think we'll respond to an active shooter situation today. We just we never know when it's going to happen. So we always have to be prepared. And part of our preparation, not only in handling the situation once we arrive, but being prepared ourselves mentally and physically to handle the situation.
Yeah, but how do they prepare you for that in the academy? Because I don't think I'd be prepared for someone getting shot right in front of me or knowing that someone's sitting up somewhere shooting people as they're walking around. So how do you prepare for that?
It's hard to say. We prepare through our training, our tactics, our instructors at the academy are very good and they do their best to get us physically and mentally ready because you never know when it's going to happen. But we also prepare ourselves internally because when we respond to an active shooting situation, our goal, our mission is to find a threat, which will probably be someone there that's shooting, and end it as quickly as possible. And what that might look like is that we're going to pass people that are crying out for help. As we walk by people that have already been injured, we can't help them yet. And that's very hard as a police officer to pass someone that's crying for help, that's already been shot, and we can't stop at all because our goal, our mission is to get to the threat, find the threat, and end it as quickly as possible. And then once we do that, there are several other teams that will come in along with ourselves and help rescuing people. But I think that's probably one of the hardest things that we have to do as we respond, because if we're trained to help, and in these situations we can't until the situation has been just about resolved.
How does that feel though? Like, I mean, you're walking by and there's bodies all around and you have to like kind of step over them. Like, as an officer, what is going on inside of you?
A mixed bag of emotions. But we're so well trained that we know if we're able to get to that threat as quickly as possible, end the threat, we'll come back and we'll be able to help people. That's the only way it's going to work.
What are some things that people can do to help you? Like, you know, I've heard you speak about this before, and you told me 3 things that are really, really important to do first off. And so what are the top 3 things someone should do when you hear boom, like gunshot, right? No matter what situation you're in, what should you do?
There are 3 very important things. First of all, if you can, you want to run. And it's not a sign of weakness. Remember, your goal is to get out of the situation alive and safe. So you're going to run. If you can't run, you're going to try and hide. And then if you can't hide, you're going to fight. And I don't mean physical fight, although you may have to do that. But you're going to fight with the objects and tools that are around you. If you're in a classroom, you're going to throw chairs at the door. Okay? If you're in the mall, you're going to throw racks of clothing, anything to deter that suspect from getting to where you are. So run, hide, fight. And if you can't do any of those things, and I'm hoping that you're in a situation where you can do those things, after you've done that and the police arrive, you're going to cooperate with law enforcement. They won't stop to help you. That's the hardest thing and a hurtful thing to say. But until they're able to put the threat down, they're not going to help. Try not to stop. Do not stop the officers as they're walking by you by pulling on their pant leg or pulling on their gun belt or their arms. Let them go. They're already programmed to get to that threat. And I promise you, as soon as they are able to get to the threat, stop the threat from continuing to occur, they will be back to help you.
So you want to run, hide, fight, right? But one of the questions I have is like, you have so many active shooting situations. We just had one in Texas recently, and it was, and those were older kids, right? But imagine you have little kids, right? So I want to go through like each age group. Like, what would you teach each age group to do to stay safe in these situations? You have run, hide, fight. So if I was a little guy and I'm like in pre-K, in elementary school, what would you teach them to do? Take me through the steps.
I would teach them, if they're pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, whatever. It's the same principle. It's just taught differently, probably. In the pre-K elementary school, I would teach the students basically, because we're still all going to run, but we're all going to grab each other's hands. All eyes will be on the teacher, and we're going to lead them out of that classroom. That's our running. Okay, that's our running. It will be up to the teacher to determine which way they're going to go once they're in the hallway. What are the direction of the shots? Where are they coming from? So we're going to run the opposite way. And we're all going to be holding hands, moving quickly, step lively, whatever it is that we need to teach the young people that will understand the words that we're saying to get them out of that classroom quickly. Now, let's say we can't run. So in practice, because just like years ago when we were practicing in elementary school, junior high school, to prepare for earthquake drills, okay, we practiced what to do. So it doesn't matter what age group, it's all about the practicing. So they will understand when the time comes what you mean by run, let's run, let's gather up, let's go, grab hands. They'll know how to do that.
It'll be automatic.
Automatic. So let's say we can't run. The threat is already in the hallway. So now what do? We're going to hide. We're going to find an area in the classroom where all of us are going to hunker down, as they say. That's our hiding. Okay. Meanwhile, it's very important that the teacher, while the students are running over to whichever corner she so designates, lock the doors. Pull those large desks up to the doors. This is for the teacher to do. And then run back over to where the children are hiding. Because anything that stops the suspect's path is a good thing. Okay? They're not going to stop and try and figure out how to unlock the door. They're going to keep moving down the hallway usually. And then, if we can't run and there's nowhere to hide, we're going to have to fight. And this is where the teacher, again, plays a very important role. I don't want the kids running up to the suspect and trying to fight them with their fist. We're going to teach our children, just start throwing stuff at the door.
Now, why is that important?
Because it's going to stop the suspect. You're going to stop the suspect from doing what he or she is about to do, entering the classroom. Once they've entered, all these books and desks and chairs and pencils and backpacks and whatever you have, it's going to slow that person down. Maybe just long enough for law enforcement to enter the hallway and see that the suspect's at this one particular classroom and take care of business.
Now, do you think with little kids, are you going to get like a lot of parents are going to be uncomfortable with this? I mean, me, when I was little, we had the earthquake drills where you ducked and covered, right? And people like you get anxious about that. But imagine you're talking about teaching kids about someone with a gun. Like, what kind of responses are you going to get from parents because of that?
Parents are going to be nervous about it, to be honest with you. It's going to be an uncomfortable situation. I know that. But if I was a teacher in a classroom, my goal, my job, my duty would be to make sure that all of my students are safe. And this type of drill should not be done in a vacuum. Why are we just training the students, these young pre-Kers, to do this? This should be something that the entire school has bought into, basically. The buy-in is necessary. These emergency drills should be reviewed by the school and by the parents. So the parents are aware of what the tactics will be before we have to actually use the tactics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like when you send a kid, I hate this scenario, but you send a kid home with a permission slip for sexual education and they have to watch that movie. We all watched that movie all through elementary school and high school, but we knew what it was about, right? It's the same principle. It's the same concept, right? So then as the kids are getting older, right, you're going to maybe change the tactics a little bit, than you do with the little ones who can't do much, but it's still the same concept. So, speaking of that, take me into now they're in junior high. They're bigger, right? What would be the differences? Because they don't have the little light chairs anymore. They have bigger chairs. They have bigger desks, right? So what are some of the things that people in junior high can do versus the little kids to help this situation?
Well, they can help by helping the teacher barricade the doors with the desk. Moving those chairs, those desks against the doors. Some classrooms have 2 doors. And helping to help barricade, So the suspect has a difficult time getting in. But the premise is going to be the same. Run, hide, fight, even in junior high school and high school ages. It's the same thing.
And what about in high school? You're saying it's the same thing, run, hide, fight. But what else can be different in high school that you wouldn't be necessary with the junior high kid? Because high school kids are bigger, right? They're almost adult size. So what are some things that high school kids can do?
Well, they can also help with the chairs the desks, barricading them against the doors. In junior high, one other thing, in junior high and high school, by having these drills, everyone will know where the exit doors are. Might be a little different for the pre-Kers because, they might get confused, a little disorientated. Teacher has a bigger role there than the junior high and high school. But when we practice like it is a fire drill, practice like it is an actual earthquake, where everyone's going to be evacuated, move quickly, we're going to meet out in this particular parking lot. All those things the junior high and high school students can comprehend a little more than pre-Kers and elementary school. So that might be some of the only things different. But there are certain tools that can be purchased. After some of the major school shootings that we've had the last several years, actually parents are buying these backpacks that were kind of bulletproof, had a bulletproof pad in it. I mean, that could be something. If we can't run, we can't hide, we're in the classroom. If everyone has those particular backpacks, at least that can help protect yourself.
Yeah, and if you go and look up her page on the Listen and Love channel, she also has an affiliate page that has a lot of these products she's talking about. But if you also take the course on the LLU about her active shooter training, the last week of class, she actually goes through a lot of these products and talks about them and how they can apply in active shooting training and keeping yourself safe, which is really, really awesome. Because a lot of times people don't realize they're just simple objects, right? I was amazed. You told me, your kids like water bottles, right? Get the insulated steel water bottles because they can chuck them at somebody, right? They're heavier, right? Those are things that people don't think about, They have these great backpacks now. There's some other things that you can get to have in your classroom that is very, very important. What's another thing that teachers can have in their classroom that help keep that classroom safe?
Besides those, the computers are another type tool that they can have. If we're going to be in a classroom for an extended period of time, teachers can have blankets, things of that nature, water, food, because we don't know how long we're going to be sheltering in place, basically.
What about the glass?
On the doors?
Is there something that people can do to put on the glass that would be helpful?
Well, in some schools, they've actually added shades so the suspect can't see inside. We don't want him or her to see exactly what corner of the room we're actually hiding in. So there can be shades. Anything to distract the suspect, I would say, is a good thing.
Yeah, a distraction's key. And what about the windows? Is there anything about the windows in particular?
Same thing with the shades. And make sure that the windows are locked. And you mentioned windows. We might be running out of those windows if we have to, as far as trying to get away, trying to get out. I tell you, in these situations, the best thing to do is to get out and away. And it might be, the window might be our only exit.
Yeah, it could be possible that you throw a bunch of desks out the window, right?
You could throw the desk out there. We can jump on the desk. The teacher, the older students might be more adept at this, to be able to get out and help other students out through the window. I just had a thought that with parents, because once this hits the news,
pretty much, it's like wildfire.
Parents are going to come, and we won't be able to stop parents from coming to see about their child. So when parents are responding, it would be nice if you see a teacher in need of, and they're throwing desks out the window, and depending on where the shooting is actually occurring, and law enforcement might be able to help with this as well, help with the evacuation of those students out of the classroom. Principals, administrative staffs, they need to quickly develop a safe place for all of these parents that are going to be responding, because it's going to be difficult to even hold them back.
That's the one thing. I mean, parents don't listen, right? The one thing parents need to do is listen to the law enforcement, right? because you're going to make it worse for them if you're not listening to the instructions. I know you want to know where your child is, but they can't have another distractor when they're trying to take care of the situation, right? So having a plan that everybody knows, like you said, they know where to go to the evacuation area, they know who to talk to, who's the designated person, right? That is really helpful. And to review that stuff with your child, so your child's not going, I'm going to find my mom, and you're waiting for them in the designated area.
Exactly.
So the communication is absolutely key, you know. But, you know, I'm listening to you talk, and I am thinking of the Columbine incident. I'm thinking of, you know, some of the other shootings that we had, right? And, you know, take me back to, like, you walk in there, you're a police officer, and you see this scene, right? What, you know, I'm sure you responded, like, what is something that stands out? What is a memory that you have that stands out in one of these situations?
It's just all the bodies, all the life stands out to me. You know, could officers have responded quicker? We get there as fast as we can. And it's just the life that's lost stands out to me. And how could this happen? Why did this happen? What happened? What signs were missed? Especially if the active shooter is a student that goes to school. Could more have been done?
Yeah, what blows me away is that people think, oh, it just happened that day. No, there were signs, right? And you don't just shoot somebody that day, because you have to realize you got to plan this out. You got to actually go get the gun. Maybe you wake up that morning, but you have to go to the act of getting the ammunition, loading it. Right? These are all things that are a thought process that's going on in your head where you could have stopped at any time. So what was it that led someone up to that? And then for an officer, you maybe that might be on your mind, but you're thinking of taking down that threat, right? So do you have to take away some of your humanity when you're doing that?
No. Remember what the mission is: to stop the action from occurring. Because the longer it goes on, the more lives are going to be lost. Your humanity is doing your job. There's a threat at the school. You've got to stop the threat from occurring.
I wonder, though, if people lose sight of that when they're, looking at all of these, officers, like, behavior and feedback and trying to understand what has been going on. And they lose sight of the officer as a mission, because the more life, that's a deficit. That's like a negative, right? But if you can stop the situation, then people get to survive.
And these types of scenes are so fluid and so active. Schools are kind of spread out, especially in California. It's not like back east where schools are various floors. California, they're kind of laid out, spread out. So something could be happening in the north end of the school. So that means that the south end or the east or west end, you got to start evacuating. You got to start moving quickly. Everything is going to happen so fast. We've got to allow law enforcement, once they arrive, to do their job. I can't stress that enough. They're there to stop the threat. And the longer it continues, the more lives are probably going to be lost. And remember, when law enforcement arrives, everyone is kind of in a state of confusion, because they're trying to figure out, where is the threat? How can we get to the threat quickly? And our students, our staff, they're also in a state of confusion, because you're hearing gunshots. Are you sure they're coming, from what direction? You don't know exactly.
You don't know. And a lot of times people don't forget, think about the situation that they're in, or there's a diversity angle. And I'm not talking about, black, white, blue, or purple. I'm talking about the environment that it could be occurring in is diverse within itself, right? And so can you talk more about that?
Well, when you say diverse, you're saying as far as not necessarily population, but the building may have various different buildings within a building.
that and the population that's being shot at is different, right? I mean, look at the Texas, you look at the Las Vegas shooting, right? That was it's completely different than anything we have ever seen, right?
Well, who would have thought at an open air concert, okay, because that's where it occurred, a nice night, people enjoying the concert, that all these shots would ring out like it did.
Yeah, I was going to go there because my daughter used to live in Las Vegas and I go to concerts with her all the time. I can't imagine just all of a sudden shots being fired, right? You wouldn't even think about that. And that was so unique.
What made that so that seemed so complicated? It took several minutes for people to realize where the shooting was coming from. And you have thousands of people down in this one area, and then the shots are being fired down upon them. And then you have law enforcement, Las Vegas Metro, responding in, and you see all of these people, and you don't know what's happening or where is the shooter.
No. And that was completely diverse from anything. And the shooter, is up somewhere. Like, and I mean, it just blew me away. That was really shocking to me because, you think of an active shooter situation. We've all thought about these kids, right? And we thought about these young people. This was a different demographic of a person, and that's what was so eye-opening, and it's continuing to happen. That's the other part of this. It's like, how do we stop this? What should we do? Like, how, Captain Young, from your experience, what are things that we can be doing to stop some of this violence that's going on with active shooting?
Well, one thing is that if you see something, say something. Just don't take things for granted. What you see that may look a little unusual, abnormal. If you see something, say something. The gentleman in Las Vegas, if we can call him a gentleman, he brought in, I don't remember now how many guns and bags of guns and ammunition and things like that. Did anybody see this as looking a little unusual?
Bizarre. Yeah, I mean, but people want to mind their business. And I understand in the world today, like, people are nosy and they're getting called out all over in social media, but big duffel bags of odd things. I mean, you need to say something. And maybe if people would stop reporting things like about, someone's dog being in the wrong place, people wouldn't be so heightened about things that are really, really important, because many people lost lives because of this.
One other point that the hotels, I believe, have actually changed their policy. When you travel and you could put your little sign out there, do not disturb. But I think now within every 24 hours or so, the hotel staff, they have to come in and clean the room. So with hotels being a little more proactive, where you can't put a sign out there that do not disturb for a week, hotel staff, they're able to go in and check the rooms. And I'm sure if someone to go into his room, because when the police eventually went into his room, lots of ammunition, lots of guns. So those are good changes, I think, that have been made. But as regular people, again, if you see something, say something. If you read something, especially now with social media and students, if you read something on social media, I'm going to be, and I've heard this before, quote unquote, I'm going to go down in the history books as the best active shooter.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that. And it's like, what? Like, what are you thinking? I'm going to be the best. It's like a button? Is it a sticker? Like, no, you shouldn't want that. Like, you should not want that. Like, I don't understand.
Well, if the students are reading that on Facebook, Twitter, FaceTime, all these other social platforms, if you see something, say something.
I love it. This should be a bumper sticker. You should have your own T-shirt. If you see something, say something.
I think there is something out there with that. And that, I believe, was the FBI actually coined that terminology.
Well, it needs to be. And, speaking of that, the FBI and stuff, I know that you created this great course at the LLU. And you have all kinds of goodies inside that course. Like, you have talked about so many different active shooters. You have talked about where it comes from, what the FBI thinks, to, what the average person can do. And the class that you created is also, you get every week, they get one-on-one with you, and they do discussions with each other. Like, it is an incredible, incredible thing that is there. And is there anything else that I missed about that course that you want to share? Because I was blown away by it. And this is just a sample of what you get with Captain Young. But this is also so that people understand there's an officer behind the badge and the work that is a person, right? Who has a heart, right? But what else do you want to add? Do you know about your course, about you?
Well, what I'd like to add is that the course is not just for police officers. We're not just going to talk about police officers and what they do. I want to prepare you for everyday life. You're at the mall on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, shooting breaks out. What do you do? How do you become safe? And maybe if you can, help others around you. But if you can't, remember, and this sounds very heartless sometimes, you are your number one priority, to be safe. Because you're going to find sometimes in workplace settings, for example, you're ready to run, and your coworker who's sitting next to you is not running because now they're in shock. This is a traumatic situation. Do the best you can to try and get that coworker to run with you. And if they can't, I'm sorry, you're probably going to have to go. I hope through the training that individual work sites give will prepare everyone so that when and if it occurs, everyone can jump into action and help everyone to be safe. One other thing, teachers, and wherever you are, turn off your cell phone so it's not, ringing, killing. You may want to use it if you're going to call 911. I can't stop you from reaching out to your loved ones. I can't stop you from doing that, but turn it off so it's not ringing and pinging and so on. Because if we're hiding, he's going to hear all of our phones going off and he'll know exactly where we are.
Yeah, one of the things that, when we were developing our course and trying to find, things that would be helpful to people is that you can have on your phone texting, or have a satellite phone in that room that only text, right? That doesn't make any noise. And that way the person doesn't know you're using it, but you can call out for help. You can have it programmed. You can teach one designated kid in a class on how to use a satellite phone or something, or teach them all how to use it. But make sure it's something that is textable, not audible, because if you do that, then you have a better chance of staying alive. This is about staying alive. This isn't about, being glamorous or making sure that you're the hero. This is about staying alive.
And for our parents, especially with the school situation, we're going to need your help that day. We're going to need your help that day. I know we're going to be worried about our own children, but everyone needs to be safe, and we're going to need your help and cooperation. But I think if the school puts plans already in place, okay, this is where we're all going to go. If you want to know about your child, have this information already laid out so the parents will know exactly where to go. Communication is going to be up and running and live. So it's just going to hopefully help the situation, because I know how parents are going to feel as they're responding to the situation. And I think if we have some of these areas already identified, I know if we do, it's going to make for a better situation for all of us, and we'll be able to get more students out quicker.
And even in a mall, you're separated from your kid. One of the best things that my dad did was, like, if we got in trouble, we knew to go stand in front of like a certain ride, right, or whatever amusement park. Or we knew that's where they would look for us, right? And so that's part of being cooperative with law enforcement too, is teaching your kids little tips and tricks like that, correct?
Absolutely. And when we're all in a safe place, turn those cell phones on. communicate with your family. Let them know you're okay and where you are. We may have buses coming in, and it's all about communication. And I've seen the aftermath of some of these school shootings and the distress on the eyes and the faces of these parents. They don't know what happened. But I think if we communicate information as soon as we have it, it can relieve a lot of tension out there.
Absolutely. When I was in high school, I think it was my senior year or my junior year, somebody was shot in the field, and I was walking through the field at that time. And I got down, I immediately, but my instinct was run, and now I know that's the part I should have done, right? But everybody was crouching. I'm like, no, man, I'm going to get here. But I remember the terror on people's faces, the parents' faces when they were coming up looking for their kid, and the terror. Yeah, the terror. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to stand here in front of the school where I always stand to get picked up so my mom will know immediately when she drives up. Like that was always in my head, I wasn't going to try. And this is before kids had cell phones, and I wasn't going to try and go anywhere else or walk home, or I was just going to stand there. But I know a lot of kids just freaked out and ran off. And that's not the best way to do is have a plan, talk to your kids. I know this is really hard to talk to people about. It's hard to talk to adults. But if you start doing it from when they're little guys, when they're adults, it'll be second nature and they'll stay safe. And that's the point that you're making, And so it is the best thing to do, and having these conversations and listening and talking about this and, and not being afraid to ask questions about what you don't know. First thing, run. Second thing, hide.
And if you have to, fight.
Thank you, Captain Young. And if there's anything else, you can always contact her at the Listen and Love University, because she's one of the great faculty that's there. And you can go to my website and find her at drdebrawarner.net. But I know that she's available for active shooting training if you contact her, and she will consult with you and teach you everything that she knows about it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debra.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just Healing. Join us for a new episode each week throughout 2024, where we'll continue to spread the message of hope and healing and welcome Just Healing's other 3 new hosts, Timothy Duvall Brown, Dr. Greg Kaysen, and Jace Barron. It's going to be an exciting year. And remember, you are worthy. Trauma doesn't define us, and healing is a collective journey. This podcast is produced by myself, Dr. Debra, in collaboration with MenHealing, a national nonprofit dedicated to helping provide accessible resources and community for any male or male-identifying survivor of sexual harm. MenHealing's aim is to help, heal, inspire, and break isolation for survivors. You can donate. Check out our healing events, videos, and other resources at menhealing.org. If you or someone you know has been a victim of sexual harm and you need to talk to someone, RAIN can help. Call their National Sexual Assault Hotline to speak with a trained staff member who can provide you with confidential crisis support. It's free, confidential, and 24/7. Call 1-800-656-4673.